Alabama woman escapes the first meteorite attack ever, only to face the unbelievable later. Every day, scientists are learning new information about space. The space agencies have stepped foot on Mars, where they're trying to explore the atmosphere and see if the planet is habitable for us humans. Though it might seem like an achievement, believe it or not, we've barely scratched the surface. Our universe is still a mystery to us. Stephen Hawking is considered as one of the most brilliant minds after Einstein. He proposed the theory of Big Bang, which said that our universe was in a hot, tiny, and dense state with no stars, atoms, form, or structure. And then some 13.8 billion years ago, space expanded very quickly, resulting in Big Bang, hence the name. But why are we talking about space in the universe? It's because in 1950 in Alabama, a woman was hit by a meteorite. At first, things were normal, but soon she was never quite herself. Things changed for her. Was it all because she was hit by a meteorite? Space object. According to scientists, between 36 and 166 meteorites larger than the size of 10 grams hit the Earth per million square kilometers per year. Or in simple words, 18,000 to 84,000 meteorites hit the Earth's surface every year. Luckily, most of the meteorites are too small that result in no impact when they touch the Earth's atmosphere. But that day in 1950, one meteorite big enough to impact the Earth hit not just the surface, but a woman too. But then things didn't remain the same. She didn't remain the same. Large impact. There is a very rare chance of meteorites actually hitting Earth's surface, but when they do, the results can be really catastrophic. It's believed that some millions of years ago, a meteorite hit the Earth which wiped out the entire population of dinosaurs. Just imagine the size of the meteorite that ended an entire species forever. But that was in the past. What took place in 1954 was something more bizarre. The other news. Back then, most of the United States was in shock from the landmark judgment for Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. The judgment passed in the case banned the discrimination in schools. But in the small town of Salacquidja, Alabama, something else was keeping people's minds busy. Red thing in the sky. One of the residents of Salacquidja spotted a bright reddish light like a Roman candle trailing smoke in the sky. Many of the residents left the scene thinking the Soviets have attacked the place with some sort of new Cold War weapon. Everybody was running around. Some packed their bags and families were hiding in the best place they could. They thought it was the end. But it was not a weapon, but a meteorite. The search was on. Firefighters and police searched both Morgan and Cullman counties. The authorities thought that it was some plane that had crashed. What else can you think of? Obviously, the plane. Most of the time when a plane crashes, there's a possibility of fire or some smoke coming out of the plane. But there was none this time. The firefighters and police had no idea what they were dealing with. The red thing. No one knew what the thing was. People were running, shouting, and kept looking at the sky. They wanted to know where it would crash. For first, nobody knew what it was. Second, the red smoke made it look like it was some advanced weapon for mass destruction. Everybody was out of their house looking extremely frightened about the situation. Then it crashed. It crashed. It felt like everything has stopped for a moment. Nobody dared to move from the place they were standing. Smoke was coming out from one of the houses. The thing from the sky crashed in somebody's house. People were standing near the house from which the smoke was coming, ran towards the house. Who was inside the house? The smokehouse. So the meteorite crashed in somebody's house. From the distance, nobody could tell if there was someone inside the house. Few of them entered the house to see if there was anybody inside. Indeed, there was. It was Ann Hodges, who was taking her afternoon nap on her sofa in the living room when the meteorite crashed in her house. But she wasn't looking fine. There was something odd about her body. What was it? Ann Hodges. Ann had been living with her husband in Salacquidja for quite a while now. A kind-hearted person who was loved by everybody in the neighborhood. She was a housewife. That day when the meteorite crashed inside the house when she was taking her afternoon nap, who could have thought that from now onwards there would be so many countless sleepless nights in her life that would change her life forever? Here it comes. After surviving through the Earth's atmosphere, the extraterrestrial rock made its way towards Alabama farmhouse. There was a loud noise in the neighborhood that shook everybody to the core. Nobody knew what was happening around them. People were running madly everywhere. And then with lightning speed, the meteorite crashed. But where? In somebody's house. In the afternoon. That same afternoon when the meteorite entered the Earth's atmosphere, the 32-year-old Ann Hodges was taking an afternoon nap before her husband returned home from work. After finishing the house chores, she needed that nap. The moment her eyes went heavy, taking her into dreams of comfort and making her body lighter than a feather, she woke up due to a violent thud sound. What just happened? The moment she came into her senses, it was becoming almost impossible to grasp the situation she was in. With blurry eyes, she was trying to understand the pain she was feeling on her left side. Though she seemed unharmed by the football-sized meteorite that hit her, she was still in pain. Looking around, she was trying to figure out what all has happened to her. Was she in some kind of danger? Remember, she was hit by a meteorite. Are you all right? Ann's house was surrounded by people from her neighborhood. Everybody wanted to know if she was all right. Though it seemed like she was sitting in the sofa straight up, there was something off about her. She seemed to be in shock by the event that had just happened to her. One of her neighbors asked if she was okay. Ann didn't respond to it. She was staring at something. She was in a lot of pain. You could have told that by seeing her eyes. The pain. There was a pain on her left side of her stomach. She was in absolute shock. She had no idea what she should do next. Somebody shouted, "Call the doctor." Somebody then went out to call up the doctor. The doctor had no idea what he'd be dealing with next. After a while, the doctor was standing in front of Ann's house, which was surrounded by people. What was going on? The doctor in the house. There was so much crowd in front of Ann's house that made the doctor confused about the situation. Usually when people call him at their house, it's for simple cases of fever or other common diseases. Looking at the crowd, the doctor became confused and a little suspicious about the situation. He enters. After crossing through the crowd, he entered the house. He saw a lady sitting on the sofa. He could tell that she was the patient. He went up to Ann and introduced himself. She wasn't responding. The doctor could tell that she was in shock. But why? What happened to her? One of the neighbors told the doctor about the situation and what happened. The doctor couldn't believe what he was hearing. Something from the sky hit her? Looking at her. The doctor then took her and asked her to lie down on a bed. He checked her pulse, which were running like they were sprinting. Her heartbeat was so fast. She lied down on the bed while the doctor gave her some medication to calm her down. It was then when the doctor noticed something on her body. The condition. Ann's living room, where she was taking her afternoon nap, looked the same as it always looked. The only thing that seemed to be out of the box was the radio. On the left side of the radio, there was a large gash, and there were broken pieces from the radio scattered all over the floor. But what about the pain? The doctor. You would be surprised to know that the doctor who treated her was from the same neighborhood. Dr. Jacobs was only a year out of medical school. He was new to all this. And when he treated Ann, he wouldn't have imagined that it would be him who would treat the only human to survive a meteorite attack. The commotion. The neighbors saw that something has entered Ann's house. They rushed inside the Hodges house, helped Ann, who was still on the sofa in shock of the event that has taken place in her house. People called up the police and informed them about the situation that's taken place, and something's happened to Ann, who seemed to not be in her proper sense. The police reached the scene after spotting something. Police arrived at the scene. The police got a call from one of the residents who told them that something from the sky hit a woman. It was a very unusual thing to hear because the resident said something from the sky hit her. Was it a plane? Was she actually hit by a plane? The police didn't waste any more seconds and reached the scene, which was filled with people as if some show was going on. Found out the truth. Police met Ann, who was still on her bed. She told them about the situation and what happened there. The police saw the rock, which was still hot. They didn't touch it until they felt safe. But this was something new for the police. Not every day you hear a woman getting hit by a meteorite. Then they saw the ceiling of the house. What's that? A hole in the ceiling. The police were quick enough to respond to the situation that's taken place in Ann's house. After investigating the house, they spotted a hole in the ceiling. It seemed like the extraterrestrial object crashed Ann's house, injuring her through the ceiling. Everybody was surprised to see that Ann was still alive, even after being hit by a meteorite. How was that even possible? People thought she was lucky, but soon it turned out to be the worst luck any person can ask for. A big piece of rock. This extraterrestrial piece of the meteorite was really huge. It crashed through the roof, damaged the radio, and hit Ann when she was asleep on the sofa. A geologist who heard about the event couldn't believe that something this big has happened, and amazingly, the person was alive to tell the tale. It was a huge event, as nobody's ever been struck by a meteorite. But then the life of this woman didn't remain the same. The husband arrives. Ann's husband Eugene heard about the news, which involved his wife. When he reached home, he saw that his house was turned into a circus. He was worried about his wife. Making his way through the crowd, he saw his wife sitting on the same sofa she was sleeping on when the meteorite hit her. He asked her if she was okay, to which she replied that she's more than fine because they might just have hit the gold mine. But as they say, when you think things are going easy, they take a sharp turn and makes things really bad for everybody. The same happened with Ann and Eugene, and it happened because of the meteorite. Please go away. Eugene asked the police to remove the crowd, as it would be impossible for his wife to get proper rest. He could tell how much pain she was in. The police understood his concern and asked the crowd to exit the area as soon as possible. The crowd left the area, but then there were others who surrounded them. The media. The media caught wind of the incident that had taken place in the area. No media station would leave a story of a space rock hitting a woman, and more importantly, she lived to tell a tale. There was media personnel from every known and unknown channels and newspapers. Everybody wanted a little piece of the story. But Ann didn't want all that. She was getting really angry due to the commotion. The worth. It's hard to tell what a meteorite is worth, even if it's hit a human who survived it. According to astronomer Mike Reynolds, you have a better chance of getting hit by a tornado and a bolt of lightning and a hurricane all at the same time. So what was the worth of the meteorite that crashed through the house and hit the person? Highest ever sold. The Fukan meteorite is very rare. According to scientists, only 1% of all the meteorites that have crashed to the Earth's atmosphere are pallasites. This meteorite is believed to be 4.5 billion years old, almost the same age as our planet Earth. This meteorite was found in 2000, taking the name of the place in which it crashed. Not only the Fukan meteorite is one of the most beautiful meteorites, but it's also the most expensive meteorite ever sold. It was sold for 1.7 million euros. So how much would Ann and Eugene be able to get from their meteorite? The problems after. Ann and Eugene were hoping to make a fortune through this meteorite, but due to some legal complications, it seemed to be a far-fetched dream. Ann hadn't realized at first, but the meteorite actually did damage her. She thought everything was fine with her and her life, but with time she understood what she had bargained for, even when it wasn't her choice in the first place. The legal work. The first complication that came with meteorite was the fact that Ann and Eugene weren't the owners of the land on which it crashed. Even though they'd been living in the house for years, that didn't make them the owner of the meteorite. So who would be the owner of the meteorite? She heard the news. The landlady of the land on which Ann and Eugene lived heard about the news that involved a meteorite that crashed in her property. When she heard that meteorite was from outer space and could fetch a good amount on the market, she wanted the meteorite for herself. She said it was her land on which the extraterrestrial space rock crashed. Lawfully, the meteorite belonged to her. It was her opinion, but the couple had a different opinion. The couple reasoned back. Ann and Eugene said that though the land belonged to the landlady, it was Ann who got struck by the meteorite. It was she who suffered an injury from it. It was she who will still have the scar on her body. So in all terms, it should be the couple who should get the meteorite. Both the parties presented their reasons. So the question was, to whom did the unlucky meteorite belong to? Yes, unlucky. You'll see why. The real owner. The landlady of the land on which Ann and Eugene were living sued them for possession of the meteorite. Both Ann and Eugene weren't looking for any legal suit, as they were already struggling with it, so they paid the landlady $500 to settle the case. Being a working-class couple, the amount was far more than they could actually afford. They knew that they would fetch a greater amount for the meteorite. Things were changing for the couple, but in a bad way, and it was all because of the fact that an outer space body hit the woman in the house. Waiting. After settling the case with the landlady, the couple was approached by the Smithsonian to buy the meteorite for their impressive collection. The offer they put in front of Ann and Eugene wasn't a big one, so it was refused, because in their mind, they had an offer worth taking. They waited for the one life-changing call that could turn their life in a good way. But then there was something bothering Ann. She didn't speak about it to the husband, even though she knew she should. Frustrating events. Though the offer never came, still they were hoping for the best to happen. The only thing that they were receiving after such a huge event was nonstop attention. Reporters surrounded their house 24/7, barely giving them time to breathe. They felt like their privacy was being disturbed with all the media attention. Things were getting out of hand now. Constant disturbance from the outer world and then financial stress made them really frustrated about everything, due to which Ann suffered a nervous breakdown. She changed. Sadly, things started taking a toll over Ann. She didn't realize, but she was changed, due to from which her marriage started to get affected. And in 1964, the loving couple separated from each other. Ann was all alone in her house. There were no children to take care of her. All she had was the meteorite that cost her everything in her life. All alone. After separating from her husband, Ann was left devastated. It felt to her like there was no purpose for her life anymore. She loved her husband deeply, but because of the meteorite incident, her life was shattered into pieces, just the way it shattered the radio that day. The pieces were scattered all over the floor, and there was no music coming out of it anymore. Ann's life became the same without her husband. In the end, she decided to move out, though she never left the meteorite. It was for her to remind that all that happened to her was because of this meteorite. 8 long years. The next 8 years, Ann spent her life in a nursing home. She passed away in the nursing home due to kidney failure. She was 52 years old when she passed on to the next life. The meteorite brought bad luck in her life that took away everything from her, even her life. But the rock made her famous. Sadly, she wasn't alive to see that. Giving it away. Prior to her death, Ann, who thought that it happened due to the meteorite, decided to donate the meteorite to the Alabama Museum of Natural History. The meteorite was moved to the other town, leaving Ann alone forever. It was in this new town the rock changed something for good. The museum. After the meteorite was donated to the Alabama Museum of Natural History, they studied the meteorite thoroughly. They gathered some major information about it, and later the meteorite was put up on display for the general public. Everybody wanted to take a look at the meteorite that struck the woman who survived the hit. Same story. In another town, a smaller piece of meteorite made way and crashed in the yard of Julius McKinney. The farmer received a similar offer, just like Ann and Eugene from the Smithsonian. He accepted the offer without question. With the money, he bought a car and a new house to support his family. They should have too. We think Ann and Eugene should have accepted the offer the way the farmer did. Though the amount wasn't huge, still things would have been different for the couple. Ann wouldn't have ended up alone in a nursing home. She died there waiting for the moment that her life would change. Sadly, that didn't happen. Types of meteorites. Meteorites are smaller parts of asteroids that fall off from it and land on Earth. Scientists classify these meteorites on the basis of chemical structure, chemical composition, where all sorts of chemicals are found, isotopic compositions, types of chemical elements are there, and mineralogy. Other classifications. Other than the above classifications, meteorites are also sorted according to their physical features, such as rocky, if meteorites are made of rocky material, metallic, if they contain iron, and mixtures, if they contain both stone and irons. There are a lot of things that are considered before one can say the rock is actually a meteorite. Remembering her. The world will always remember Ann Hodges as the person who lived after being struck by a meteorite, though she didn't get the life she hoped for. But then again, meteorite did make her famous. So the next time you read about a meteorite, her name will always pop in your head. The Hoba meteorite. It's the largest known meteorite on Earth. It weighs over 60 tons. It crashed on the planet some 80,000 years ago and was discovered in the year 1920 in Namibia, Africa. It's mostly made of iron with nickel and other small elements. You can visit it at the National Monument in Namibia, Africa. The Willamette meteorite is the largest meteorite ever found in the United States. It's 10 feet tall and weighs over 15.5 tons. According to scientists, this meteorite is believed to be part of the iron core of the planet that was destroyed after the collision some billions of years ago. It crashed on the Earth's surface some 1,000 years ago and was discovered in 1902. The Sylacauga meteorite. The same meteorite we've been talking about. The meteorite which made Ann Hodges famous for the fact that she survived after getting struck by it. The scar from the injury remained on her body until she passed away. People describe the meteorite as a fireball shooting through the sky. The Allende meteorite. This meteorite crashed in Mexico in 1969. Surprisingly, it was the size of a car before it crashed and got scattered away in pieces all over the place. It's the most famous meteorite, and researchers still study it. It's believed that this meteorite was 4.6 billion years old. It's made up of silicates, oxides, sulfides, water, organic compounds, and various other minerals. These are the same elements that are found in the sun and planets.